What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back again to my YouTube channel. Today's tutorial will be on how to draft a basic bodice, and this tutorial is beginner friendly. I'm going to draft the front and the back bodies together. So to do that, the length of this bodice is 24 inches. So from my pattern paper, I'm going to mark 24 from this edge. So from this edge, I will mark 24 inches out from my pattern paper. 24 inches is my upper hip, and that is where I want the bodice to end. So I will mark out 24 inches, and after that I will connect the dots I'm marking now together. So this is what we have. I've marked out 24 inches, and that new line will be my shoulder line. So now to divide the front and the back bodies, I'm going to use the biggest circumference of my measurement, which is my hip. So I'm going to divide my hip by 2 and add 1 inches to the measurement. I will leave the measurements for this tutorial on the screen for you to see. So the hip I'm working with is 45. I will divide the 45 by 2. That will give me 22.5. I will add 1 inches to it. That will give me 23.5. And I will use this side I'm touching as my center front. So from that side, I will mark 23.5. I am marking the 23.5. So I will mark it from the shoulder line to the end. And this 23.5 is the biggest. I use biggest circumference of my measurements to get the 23, which is 23.5, which is my hip. I divided by 2 and I had 1 inches. So now I will divide the 23.5 into 2 again to have my center front and my center back. So I will divide the 23.5 into 2, and this will give me 11.75, 11 and 3/4. So from my center front, I will mark 11.75. I will mark it from the shoulder line to the end of the paper, which is my M line, 11.75. I've marked it on the shoulder line as well, and I will mark a straight line. And this side will be my center back, while the side close to me will be my center front. So now we can start drafting our basic bodies. Now I will mark my shoulder measurement. If you remember, the center front is facing me while the center back is at the other side. So I will start from the line that I wrote center back. I will mark my shoulder measurement as well. The shoulder is 16. 16 by 2 will give me 8. So I've marked the 8 inches on the center back and on the center front. And the neck width I'm using is 3 inches for the front. And from that 8 inches for my shoulder line, I will mark 1 inch downward, and I will connect, and this 1 inch is for our slope, and I will connect the 1 inches to the 3 inches width. The back and the front neck width is always the same, and I've marked the 3 inches on the center back for my neck width as well, and I come down by 1 inches. So I'll connect the neck width and the 1 inches together. So now I will mark my neck depth. For the front neck depth, you can use 4, you can use 5, depending on what you want, but we are drafting a basic bodice, so I will use 3 inches for the neck depth for the front. 3 inches. You can use your free hand to draw the neckline. You can use your curve. Before curve came out, at least we are using our hand. So I will connect the neck width with a straight line, and I will use my hand to curve the neckline out like this. The next is the back, and I will use 1 inches for the back neck depth. 1 inch for the back neck depth. And we have our back neck depth now. So now I will start marking my vertical measurements, and next is my shoulder to the chest line. To get your shoulder to the chest line, you can divide your bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5. So if I divide 45 by 6, I will add, if I add 1.5 to it, I will have 8.8 something. But I like some ease on my I like some ease on the cloth I'm making, so I will make it 9 inches. And you will mark the 9 inches from the shoulder slope, the 1 inch that we came down from the shoulder line. So I will mark 9 inches, and I will extend the 9 inches to the back as well. The next line is our bust point line. To get your bust point line, you can come down from your chest line by 1.5 or 2 inches. It depends on how the fuller the person bust is. So from the shoulder line, I'll get my bust point line. The bust point line is 11.5, 11 and a half. You can come down from your chest line by 1.5 by 2 inches, depending on how fuller the person you are working with bust is. So I've marked my bust point line, and the next line is my shoulder to the waistline. The shoulder to the waist is 18. So I'll connect it to have a straight line now. And I will extend it to the back because we need waist at the back, but there is no bust at the back. To have accurate line, I want to mark the 18 inches on the back. I'll connect it together. And the next is my shoulder to the hem line, which is my upper bust is 22 inches. If you mark your waist for the front and the back, you will see that there is difference between front waist and the back waist. So my own difference is 2 inches. Try to measure your front and the back waist separately. You will see you have difference. And this my difference between front and the back waist is 2 inches. But because this bodice is terminating on the hip line, so I will be coming up from the hip line by 2 inches at the back. I'm marking 2 inches from the back. So that is the difference from my front and my back. And I will label it. This is my chest line. This is my bust point line. My waist and my hem line. So now we need to mark our dart, and to get your dart, you will divide your nipple measurement into two. Your nipple measurement into two to have your dart. And my own is 9, and if I divide the 9 by 2, I will have 4.5. So on my bust point line, I will mark 4.5. And after marking the 4.5, I came down by 1 inches, and I tried to mark it to make sure I have 4.5. On my waistline, I will mark 4.5 also, and on the hem line, I will mark 4.5 as well. So like I came down from my bust line by 1 inches for the dart, and to get your dart end, you need to go up from your hip line by 2 inches. Our front dart is always terminating 2 inches from the hip line, and I'll connect the line to have straight line. So I've connected, and on my waistline I'll mark half inch on the both side of the line. So I'll connect the half inches to the 1 inches that I came down from the bust point line, and I'll connect it together. I will do the same thing to the 2 inches that I came up with. I'll connect it. And this is our front dart. I will mark the same thing on the bust point line, 4.5 for the nipple to nipple measurement. And for the back, I will mark the 4.5 on the bust point line. And I've marked the 4.5 on the M line, and I will connect the 4.5 to have a straight line like we did to the front. And I'll mark a half inch on the waistline. I'll connect it to the bust line and connect the down parts to the M line. So I've go ahead to mark both the front and the back that, and the next is our armhole. So I will mark my shoulder measurements, which is 8 inches on the bust line, the 8 inches, and I will connect it to the slope to have a straight line. I will do the same thing for the back. The next thing is to mark our armhole curve. And to do this, you need to mark from the shoulder slope to the bust line. To mark what you have, I have 9, and I will divide that 9 into 2, and that will give me 4.5. So I'll mark the 4.5 on the front and on the back. On the front side, I will come in by half an inch. You can do 7.5 3/4, and I will use my curve to curve it to have our armhole. You can rotate your curve to have the perfect armhole that you want. And this is our front armhole. On the back armhole, you don't have to go in. From that 4.5, just curve it to your bust line. And this is what I have for the front and the back bodies. The next thing I will do is on the back waist. I will go in by half an inch, and I will connect the half an inch to the M line and to the chest line. This will eliminate the back puff at the waistline. The next thing to do now is to mark my horizontal measurement, and I will start from my chest line. The chest I'm working with, the bust I'm working with is 44. If I divide the 44 by 4, I will have 11. So on the bust line, I will mark 11. Bear in mind that there is no seam allowance on these bodies. After cutting it out, whenever I want to use these bodies, I will add my seam allowance to it. So I'm marking 11 inches on the bust line. On the waistline, the waist I'm working with is 40. 40 divided by 4, I will have 10. And I will add the 1 inch for the dart allowance. That will give me 11. On the waistline, I will mark 11 also. On the hemline, I will mark my hip measurement. The hip I'm working with is 45. 45 divided by 4, I will have 11.25. So I will mark 11.25 on my M line, and I will connect the three together: the bust, the waist, and the hip line. I will connect it together. I will mark the same thing on the back. My bust divided by 4, I have 11 on the front. I will mark the 11 on the back as well. And if I want to mark the waist for the back, I will start from the half inch inward. The half inch that I go in by half inch. So I will start my measurement from that half inch, and I will mark my waist divided by 4. On the hemline, I will mark my hip divided by 4, 11.25. So I'll mark 11.25 on the M line, and I will connect the 3 together. And this is our front and our back bodies. I'll connect the on the dart leg to meet the M line. I'll connect the dart leg with a straight line to meet the M of the bodies. The next thing now is to cut it out. I'm cutting the front first, the front bodies first. For the zipper allowance on the back, from the M line, from the straight line that I marked earlier, the center back, I'll mark 1 inches from the line, and on the waistline, I will start my 1 inches from the half inches that we go inside, that I mark inward, the half inches that I mark inward. As you can see, our zipper line is not straight again. If you check the back of woman body, you will see that the back is somehow curved, not straight, and this is our zipper line. But because I'm drafting a basic bodice, I will not be needing the zipper allowance. Whenever I want to use my pattern, I can just eyeball it and add my zipper allowance to it. Then I'll go ahead to cut the back out also. I'll just show you the way to cut, to add your zipper allowance to the bodies. And we already have our front and our back together. So the next thing is, if we try to match the armhole side of the front and the back, you see there is a difference, and this is where our bust dart comes in. So on my bust point line, The difference between my front and the back is 2 inches. So from my bust point line, I will mark 2 inches downward. I will mark 2 inches downward. And on my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4.5, I will go in by 1 inch, and this will give me 5.5 for my nipple to nipple measurement. So I will connect the 2 inches to the 1 inches on the bust point. But if you are working for someone with bust 35-40, you don't need to go in by 1 inch. You can connect it straight to your nipple to nipple measurement. But I'm working with fuller bust and bigger cup. That's why I mark 1 inch. The next thing to do now is to close the 2 inches to meet the bust point line. You will fold it like so and connect it to the bust point line. You can use your paper tape to hold it. So after connecting it, you will notice that you have some excess on the waist to the bust, so you have to connect it and you will cut it out. After connecting, you will cut it out. So you will notice that this pattern paper did not lay flat like the back bodies. To do this, to close the bust dart, you have to open waist dart. You have to open one dart to close the other dart. To close the bust dart, I will have to open the waist dart now, but I will not be slashing it through because I still need this body for another thing. As you can see, if you open the waist dart, you can now close the bust dart, but I will not be slashing it through. Like I said, I will use my paper tape to hold it back because I still need these bodies for another thing, and you will see it in our next tutorial how we use these bodies for different pattern. We have come to the end of today's tutorial. Guys, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, share, likes my video and comment, share with family and friends. Thank you.